Love Hurts, 2025, follows Marvin Gable, a former hitman turned suburban realtor, whose attempt to live a quiet, respectable life is shattered when a crimson envelope from Rose, his ex-partner in crime he believed dead, draws him back into a lethal underworld. As Marvin becomes hunted, not only by Rose but also by his own crime lord brother Knuckles, he is forced to confront violent past decisions, moral culpability, and the collateral damage of secrets kept. The story explores themes of redemption, guilt, identity, relational trust, betrayal, and the search for moral clarity in a world saturated with deception, violence, and shifting loyalties. Marvin embodies conflicted intelligence, adaptive survival skills, emotional turmoil, and a desire for redemption, while Rose, Knuckles, and an ensemble of allies and enemies illustrate relational complexity, ethical corruption, and the consequences of past actions. As Marvin's former life resurfaces, the plot escalates into a high-stakes game where open houses and suburban homes become battlegrounds. He must rely not only on combat skill and cunning but also on the ability to read people, negotiate trust, and balance personal survival with ethical responsibility toward innocent bystanders. Each confrontation reopens wounds, betrayals, past violence, dormant guilt, and unresolved trauma. The narrative emphasizes that escaping a violent past is not merely a matter of physical distance, but requires moral reckoning, relational honesty, and emotional accountability. Marvin's evolution becomes a struggle between self-preservation and moral restitution, between the instinct to survive and the urge to face consequences for prior actions. Relational intelligence plays a crucial role. Alliances shift unpredictably, deception is constant, and trust becomes both a weapon and a liability. Marvin has to learn who can be trusted, if anyone, and negotiate emotionally fraught relationships while under threat. Rose represents vengeance, betrayal, and the consequences of broken trust, whereas others offer redemption, compassion, or further manipulation. These dynamics highlight how deeply past bonds and betrayals shape identity, loyalty, and moral compass. The film underscores that relational awareness, understanding motivations, anticipating betrayals, gauging sincerity, is as vital for survival as any physical skill in a dangerous world. Ethically, Love Hurts probes the boundaries of redemption and punishment. Marvin's past crimes are never glossed over. The film confronts the reality that survival cannot erase violence, and that guilt lingers until acknowledged. As he fights external enemies, he also fights internal demons: remorse, denial, regret. The narrative suggests that redemption demands more than escape: accountability, empathy, and a willingness to face the consequences. The tension between self-interest and moral responsibility drives much of the emotional weight, asking whether someone who has done wrong can truly start over, and what price must be paid for that chance. Action sequences fuse brutal combat, urban violence, and chaotic shootouts with cinematic flair. The violence is visceral and unflinching, reflecting the high stakes and the brutal world the characters inhabit. But the physical action is only one layer. Survival depends equally on strategic thinking, relational awareness, and moral choices under pressure. Marvin's decisions under fire, who to trust, who to spare, when to fight or flee, become moral as well as tactical. The film reveals that operational competence in a violent world must be matched with ethical judgment and relational sensitivity to avoid becoming what one once tried to escape. Psychologically, Marvin undergoes profound strain. The return of Rose and the pursuit by his brother force him to face memories he suppressed, guilt he denied, and pain he buried. Each encounter triggers emotional flashbacks, trauma, anxiety, moral hesitation. The narrative portrays trauma as lingering, shaping identity and decision-making in ways that endure beyond physical threats. Marvin's arc from denial to confrontation, from suppression to confession, mirrors a journey of psychological and moral healing, where redemption is not a destination but a continuous process of facing truth, feeling remorse, and making better choices. The film also interrogates themes of identity and reinvention. Marvin's attempt to reinvent himself as a mild-mannered realtor hides not only his past, but also his unresolved self-loathing and guilt. The resurfacing of his former life forces him to reconcile the man he wants to be with the man he was. Love Hurts asks whether identity can be rebuilt, and if so, what integrity or moral work is required. It argues that true change demands more than a facade. It demands internal transformation, relational honesty, and ethical reckoning. In its resolution, the film confronts the price of survival and redemption. Marvin must decide what kind of man he will be, one who runs forever from the past, or one who faces it and seeks to atone. The climax becomes not just physical confrontation but a moral reckoning, where decisions involve mercy, justice, and moral responsibility. The end does not offer an easy redemption, but suggests that acknowledgement of guilt, acceptance of consequences, and commitment to moral integrity may offer liberation, or at least a chance at a better path. On a technical level, Love Hurts delivers stylistic violence, dramatic cinematography, and gritty realism intended to reflect its dark themes. The tone alternates between frenetic action and tense psychological drama, reflecting the instability of Marvin's world and mind. Yet this ambition becomes one of the film's most controversial aspects. Tonal shifts, uneven pacing, and an unfocused screenplay often undermine emotional coherence, leaving some characters underdeveloped and some narrative threads underexplored. The dissonance between violence, attempted black comedy, romantic elements, and dramatic depth sometimes results in inconsistency and a sense of tonal misalignment. Ultimately, Love Hurts presents a narrative in which cognitive skill, ethical reasoning, relational intelligence, and psychological realism collide in a morally murky world. It challenges the notion of clean redemption, showing that escaping the past requires more than running. It demands facing darkness with honesty, empathy, and courage. The film stands as a cautionary tale about the cost of violence, the weight of guilt, and the complexity of redemption, arguing that heroism in such a world requires more than survival, more than strength. It demands moral reckoning, relational awareness, and the courage to face one's own demons before confronting external ones.